Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Stars of the Diamond. My name is Rhett, and today we're going to be doing another vintage card set feature. The set we're going to be doing today is the 1960 Fleer Baseball Great Set. Now, this set is kind of like a time capsule in baseball card history because it was during a time when Topps had a complete monopoly on the bubblegum card market. And Fleer, who had actually invented bubblegum, was trying to get back into it. They had actually printed a set in the 1920s, but it's not a well-known set, and I may actually make a video about that because I have a few of those. But this set was featuring, what was considered baseball greats at the time. Now, in 1959, Fleer had made a set that featured then-current baseball player Ted Williams. Now, this is kind of one of the big cards in that set. Pretty nice card, as you can kind of see. But Ted Williams was one of the best players, obviously, that there ever was. And he was with the Boston Red Sox at that time, and he signed an exclusive agreement with Fleer to produce his cards. And so in 1959, they produced an entire series just of him. So 80-card set featuring his life. And they got some flack from Topps for doing so because Topps had the only agreement to make cards with bubblegum. And so there's a little bit of a war going on. And so to kind of circumnavigate that, Fleer made this set not featuring current ball players, but baseball greats. But they kind of did continue to produce cards of current players, and I'll kind of talk about that in a little bit. But this particular set, this is the wrapper from the set. And as you can kind of see, it did come with bubblegum, but also inside was the team emblem. Okay, and I have a set of the team emblems. I'll show those to you as well. But they're basically decals. And pretty nice wrapper there. And those are kind of tough to find, tougher than the actual cards themselves. But the set itself was intended to feature 80 cards, of which 79 were produced and distributed. And I'll talk about that last card again a little bit later in the video. But kind of a cool set. They do feature mostly Hall of Famers. And you can kind of see, here's a Babe Ruth. I'm going to kind of remove one of those cards just so you can kind of see it. So this Ruth card has a little bit of wear, but Fleer was not great. Just like with their football sets, they were not great about centering. And so these cards, while they can be found in pretty high grade for the most part, finding them well centered is pretty difficult. Now, this set is featured 4 different colors, as you can see: blue, yellow, green, and red. Each of the 4 colors was supposed to be 20 different cards. The last card of the set, number 80, was not produced and distributed to the general public. So again, you can kind of see the players that we have here. Napoleon Lajoie, Christy Matheson, just mostly Hall of Famers. But keep in mind, this was made in 1960, so a lot of these guys at the time were not in the Hall of Fame. And actually, up until even today, there are a number of people in this set that are still not in the Hall of Fame. So this set is often mistaken as including only Hall of Fame baseball players, and that is not correct. And I'll kind of point out the guys that aren't in the Hall of Fame. But great set of cards. I'm just going to kind of show you the cards themselves. And the backs of the cards as well, kind of go over their life. But actually, of all things, one of Fleer's better sets, kind of like the horizontal cards. But some really, really great players. Bob Feller had not been retired long when this card set was made. There's the Lou Gehrig up there at the top. And Tony Lazzeri, Sam Rice, Mel Ott, Lefty O'Doul, Ty Cobb over here. Again, centering is the main issue. These cards in this set here are pretty much all in the X-Mint to Near Mint range, barring the centering. And centering is just pretty tough. There's Double X Jimmy Fox there. Branch Rickey, Early Grimes, Lefty Grove. There's Honus Wagner. Harry Heilman, Ted Williams down here, kind of an interesting kind of skinny picture there. Kind of a card that looks a little bit funny when it's off center too much. But yeah, so if we're kind of going through this set, kind of going through the cards themselves of those players that have not to this day made the Hall of Fame, we have Marty Marion up there in the corner. And we have Paul Derringer down on the bottom here. Paul Derringer was a pretty good ball player, but probably never going to make it into the Hall of Fame, honestly. Bobo Newsom down here. I think I missed Lefty O'Doul earlier. And there was a Bing Miller, I believe, as well. But those are kind of the non-Hall of Fame players that are in this set. So in 1959, obviously Fleer made these cards of Ted Williams. In 1960, they made this set. And then in 1961, they continued to make a series of all-time greats, but they obviously have a very different look to them. And here you can kind of see a Ruth. So these cards, as you can see on the wrapper, they came with a small decal. And the 1960 cards came with these blue border decals, and there were 16 different in this set. And I'm just going to kind of take one of these out. They're on fairly thin decal paper, and with some instructions on back on, you know, how to apply this, you know, putting it in the water, waiting it to soak off, and then kind of applying it on. But the decals themselves are actually pretty tough to find in decent grade because they are pretty thin and easily damaged. But you can see all the different teams that were in the major leagues at the time. And again, all have that blue background. But this set was produced, again, with bubblegum and the emblem. In 1961, they also made a series of emblems. They were then, in 1961, had white borders as opposed to the blue. And they also included a small little stick, what they called a sticker, that was a pennant. And I have that set. I can probably feature it at another date. And then in 1962, I think Topps finally kind of won. They could no longer include bubblegum into the packs. And so in 1963, in a very interesting twist of fate, instead of producing bubblegum, which Fleer actually was the one, you know, Frank H. Fleer was the one that invented bubblegum with the double bubble, they produced cookies. And inserted 1963 Fleer baseball cards were actually inserted with cookies. So if you find, you can still sometimes find those packs, and they'll have cookies in them. So probably don't survive too well in unopened form at this point. But one of the really interesting things about this set is, again, a lot of people think about these as being sort of all retired players. And that's mostly true, but it's not completely true. Okay? So, for example, we had a card of Branch Rickey. And in 1960, Branch Rickey was still active. And I don't believe it talks about here. He just talks about he's an executive. And in 1960, he was actually the president of the Continental League at the time. So actually features a card of a then contemporary, you know, Branch Rickey still active in the game. And in addition to that, there's two cards, the Warren Giles and the Ford Frick card feature executives, and they were then current executives. So Warren Giles was hailed as the president of the National League, and Ford Frick was the commissioner of baseball. And in 1960, they were still current in that particular office. And so the president of the American League up to 1959 was William Herridge. And he was done in 1959. And then in 1960, I believe Joe Cronin, the future Hall of Famer, would take over the role as the president of the American League. And he's not featured in the set. But probably the most important card in this set, as in 1959, Fleer still had in 1960 the exclusive deal to make cards of then current ball player Ted Williams. And so their way of doing so was to make this particular set. But Ted Williams in 1960 still played, it was his final year in the league, but he did play in, I believe, about 118 or 120 games that season. And if you flip it over, it does talk about him being still active. So he was from 1939 to still active, bats left. So despite kind of the title and everything like that, this is a playing days current card of Ted Williams. So pretty cool actually for that reason. So this card of Williams tends to sell for a lot more than some of the other bigger players in the set, and will often even sell for more than like a Lou Gehrig or someone like that, because it is considered to be a Ted Williams. For those that are in the know, that's a 1960 Ted Williams, his only card from 1960. And so it's pretty cool. A lot of these guys, again, many of these players had already passed away by the time these sets were being made. But that 80th card with the red border that should have kind of fit right here next to the Ralph Kiner was supposed to be Pepper Martin. Now, Pepper Martin was still alive in 1960, and he was, really popular player for the Gas House Gang, the 1934, and really the 1930s St. Louis Cardinals. And Fleer attempted to get the okay to make his card, but they were unable to secure those rights by the time that they had produced them. And so they actually made his card, but interestingly, they had not agreed to the photo or anything like that to be used on the Pepper Martin card. And so instead, what you'll find, and you'll still find them today, and they're very valuable, they're like prototype cards, or there's a chance that some kind of leaked out, but you will find one of two players, and those two players will have the card, the back of Pepper Martin on it, but the front will feature the wrong player. And so what you will find is it will be either the Lefty Grove or the Joe Tinker. So those two players, probably just due to placement on the sheet or whatever the case was, those two players can be found either with their regular back, obviously this one being, Robert Lefty Grove on the back, this one being Joe Tinker on the back. Instead of having their correct bio back, they'll have the Pepper Martin back. And if you find one that has that, the value of that card is in the thousands. But, overall, these cards, very affordable, okay? For being a 60-year-old card at this time, a nice condition card. Take this Paul Derringer here, for example. Nice sharp corners. Probably an X-Mint plus near mint condition card or better. Won't set you back more than about $3 or $4. Okay, maybe well centered, about a $5 card. In addition to that, some of your bigger stars, the Ty Cobbs, the Lou Gehrigs of the world, they might go into the $40-50 range. Babe Ruth, a bit more than that, probably upwards of $100, along with kind of that Ted Williams card being the current ball player. Now the decals themselves tend to sell for somewhere in the $8 to $15 range, thereabouts, maybe a little bit more. I'm not sure what the grading situation is with those, if there's people going after the registry or not, but really cool, pretty affordable set of cards to complete. Really, it shouldn't put you back more than about $400, $500 to find that entire set and put it together. Again, there's only 79 cards. And anyways, one of the ways that I actually collect this, and a lot of other people do as well, is these cards were, even in their time, pretty popular to send to the ball players and have them sign them. So a good half to more of the cards are of players that had already passed away by 1960. Okay, so you have, again, like Frank Baker, you know, was, or I mean, not Frank Baker. A lot of these players, Cap Anson had obviously already passed away by that time. And so finding certain players is very, very hard. Ty Cobb, for example, I believe passed away in 1961. So his window of opportunity to get that card signed was very, very small. And I actually do collect this set signed. I have the complete set here, but I also collect anybody that I can find signed when I can find them signed. And the price on some of the signed cards can be somewhat low. For example, you know, a Bob Feller. You know, there's the old adage in the hobby that the most expensive Bob Feller autograph is the thing he didn't sign, because he, you know, back in his day, he was very approachable, set up at card shows with his own table, and pretty much just signed everything. So anybody that wants a Bob Feller autograph, there's more than enough examples out there to accommodate that. And so you get a guy like Bob Feller of that caliber, one of the greatest pitchers of all time, and you can find a card of his with his authentic signature on the front for less than $20, $25. Okay? But most of the cards in this set are going to set you back more than that. That's kind of the low end of the scale. But a lot of these guys, you know, they were around for a long time and signed quite a bit. And so the vast majority of those that were kind of alive at the time would sign them, and, you know, they're somewhat collectible. Now, again, a lot of autographs comes down to how big of a window was it to get things signed. And you end up with some players, you know, like Heine Manouche here, where I believe Heine Manouche passed away in 1971. And so the opportunity to get that particular card signed by him, kind of a narrow window. So those cards tend to sell for, you know, a significant value more than, say, the single of Heine Manouche without the autograph, which would be a $3 to $5 card. This card probably in the $125 to $150 range. And there are other guys, you know, for example, Sam Rice also passed away in the early 70s, 74, I believe. And his card is a little bit tougher. And there can be guys whose signatures aren't particularly rare, but they're rare on this particular set. And it is a very popular set to get signed by players. So really fun, different way of collecting the set. It's the way that I actually prefer to collect it. But again, I have put together the set as singles as well. So anyways, that's kind of the overall 1960 Fleer set. And I may cover like the 1959 set and the 1961-62 set as well. But let me know in the comments below what you think about the set. If you've collected it, which cards you found to be tougher, which ones were hard to find centered. If you collect them autographed, let me know which ones you're looking for. I have a couple extras if somebody needs some of the autographed ones. I would love to trade for some that I need. And anyways, that's really it. Thank you so much for coming back to Stars of the Diamond. And these videos are fun to make, and make sure that you subscribe to my channel and like the videos, and set that notification bell on so that you get notified when I upload new videos. And anyways, thank you so much. I love to hear feedback from you guys. The best part about collecting baseball cards is the community and the people that you meet doing it. So I love interacting. If you make a comment on this video, I promise you I will respond to you. So as always, everybody, happy collecting. Thanks for taking the time out of your day to come to my videos.